All right, we're going to start talking about the digestive system and all the parts of the digestive system and things like different enzymes that are responsible for breaking down certain macromolecules in the digestive system. Okay, so the basic, and you probably have, a pretty good knowledge of how the digestive system works since you do this every day. But we're going to cover some of the basic you know, basic kind of functions that the digestive system does. So we're going to first talk about ingestion, then digestion, absorption, and elimination. Ingestion is just pretty much putting food in your mouth, and which is the entrance of your digestive tract. So you're going to be, eating an apple, chewing the apple, that you are ingesting the apple. Then next comes digestion, which actually there's two parts to digestion. You can do mechanical digestion and there's chemical digestion. So mechanical is like the physical breakdown of your food, going from large pieces to small pieces. So, like when you chew, you're breaking down large pieces of food to smaller pieces to increase the surface area to help absorb, absorb the nutrients a little more efficiently. Chemical digestion is actual chemical reaction where you're going to have enzymes that help break down food chemically. So a chemical reaction is where you're permanently changing the substance. Okay, so we're going to be talking about, like, for example, hydrochloric acid is going to be used to break down food within your stomach. That's a form of chemical digestion. Once you have broken down your substance into smaller parts, you're going to be able to now absorb it. We're going to be seeing later that the part of your digestive system that is used to absorb nutrients and molecules is the small intestine. So this, from here, it will enter your circulatory system to transport all those different monomers like amino acids, monosaccharides, glycerol fatty acids to different parts of the body wherever it's needed. Finally, good old elimination. So food that you were not able to digest, so like fiber-based material like cellulose, some excess water possibly, you would eliminate that through feces. And this is leaving through the large intestine. Okay, so going through kind of each part, we're going to kind of take a glance at each individual part of the digestive system, the different organs. So again, we're going to focus on mechanical digestion, where that happens, and the places where chemical digestion can happen through, like, again, we'll cover like the mouth, the esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and some accessory organs. So once we, when you first start digestion, or the process of digestion, you're going to ingest food in your mouth. A bulk of mechanical digestion happens here by the actual chewing. Down here, teeth tear and grind food into small pieces. But you're also going to have chemical digestion start here. You have some digestive enzymes in your saliva that actually start breaking down complex carbohydrates into smaller molecules. So the enzyme that's responsible for breaking down carbohydrates in your mouth is called amylase. So if you've ever put like a cracker or some cereal in your mouth and just let it sit in your saliva, you're going to start to kind of feel it kind of disintegrate. That's the amylase breaking down the carbohydrate, like the starches in that food. So you're chemically breaking down that food right there, but you're also, if you're chewing, you're breaking down that food mechanically as well, physically. There's also another enzyme called lysozyme, which actually is used as an enzyme to that helps digest the cell walls of bacteria. So again, if you like dropped a piece of food on the floor, there's going to be bacteria on there, so your body kind of has an immune response right at the mouth there to fight off any sort of bacterial infection that can happen from ingesting bacteria. So this enzyme, lysozyme. But really the main enzyme you'd want to know that's in your mouth is amylase. Once you've chewed that food, it's that kind of gooey clump of food. We call it the bolus. So that'll start going down your esophagus or like your throat. So to kind of see more info, this stuff won't be on the test, but it's just kind of good to know how your body works. So the bolus is going to enter the back of your throat, and this area is called the pharynx. And as this occurs, this little flap here, the epiglottis, closes the opening of your trachea, which is what leads to the lungs. So the whole point of this epiglottis flap is to prevent food from going into your trachea. So to prevent you from choking. So whenever if someone's choking, somehow the food was able to get past the epiglottis, like maybe the epiglottis didn't flap down fast enough, or you were doing something to prevent it from flapping down, and food gets stuck in the trachea, and that's when you're choking. You do the Heimlich remover. So the epiglottis prevents food from going into the trachea and directs it to go into your esophagus. Then here, the esophagus. So again, that's kind of the major tube that connects the mouth to the stomach. There's an actual name to the contraction of the smooth muscle of your esophagus moving that bolus down is called peristalsis. So again, peristalsis is the force that helps food move down your esophagus to your stomach. So technically you could actually swallow something while hanging upside down because the contractions actually push it towards the stomach. So it doesn't just rely on gravity, but that helps. But this peristalsis force pushes food down into your stomach. So you've probably maybe even felt that if you've ever swallowed like a big piece of food that like you didn't chew enough, you kind of feel the slow big chunk moving down your chest. So that's actually the substance, the thing you ate, go through peristalsis down your esophagus. Just other info, again, this won't be on the test, but after food passes into the stomach, there's this little contractile ring called a cardiac sphincter. So sphincter is just a general term for any like muscle that's ring shaped. So this kind of separates your esophagus from the stomach. So whenever you have this feeling of heartburn, that's where your cardiac sphincter is opened a little bit and some stomach acid was able to get into your esophagus. That happens a lot after you eat like fatty foods, because fatty foods can kind of relax these sphincters. So just FYI. So now we're in the stomach. Okay, so the stomach again is just a large muscular sac in essence that continues the whole chemical and mechanical digestion of food. Okay, if you look at the lining of the stomach, there's a bunch of gastric glands that release hydrochloric acid and also an enzyme called pepsin. Okay, that helps digest food chemically. So the stomach is mechanically churning and squeezing the food to kind of get it in smaller bits, but also it's chemically breaking down food with hydrochloric acid and this enzyme pepsin. Pepsin is responsible for the helping to start the chemical breakdown of proteins. So pepsin will only work with proteins. Hydrochloric acid can kind of work with pretty much generally all the different foods that are in your stomach to kind of just break it down, but pepsin is responsible for proteins. So it's going to break them down into smaller polypeptide fragments, get them closer to being smaller chains of amino acids. Just a little other interesting things about your stomach. This is not on the test, but you probably wonder, well, if there's hydrochloric acid in my stomach, how come my stomach doesn't just get eaten away by the hydrochloric acid? Well, your stomach is layered with a mucus layer, and if that fails, then yes, the acid can start to kind of break down a hole like into your stomach. So that's known as an ulcer. Now most ulcers are actually caused by a bacterium called H. pylori. So if you're starting to get an ulcer, your doctor will probably look into getting a culture of your stomach to see if you have H. pylori, and you can get treated with antibiotics to kill that bacteria. So here's the H. pylori kind of creating a hole within your mucus lining of your stomach, so then acid later on would be able to reach through here and break down the wall of your stomach to create an ulcer. Again, mechanical digestion also happens in the stomach, so you've probably felt your stomach kind of churning sometime in your life. So it has kind of muscles that are kind of laid out perpendicular to each other, so it can like churn in all different directions. So your stomach's going to break down food again mechanically and chemically until it's this like oatmeal consistency that we called chyme. So you've probably seen chyme before. If you've ever been sick and thrown up, that's actually what you're throwing up, is the digested material, that the broken down kind of food that's chyme now. So like a liquidy consistency. About after an hour or two, this pyloric valve, which is another sphincter, so another circular muscle, once your food is kind of broken down as much as possible in the stomach, it's going to open up, so then it's going to enter into the beginning of the small intestine, which is called, the entry of the small intestine is called a duodenum, okay? But it just means the opening of your small intestine. So now we're going to start entering the small intestine. We're right now going to talk about some accessory organs. The first organ is called the pancreas. You're going to want to know the main functions of the pancreas. But one function is that the pancreas produces hormones that regulate blood sugar levels. We're going to talk about these hormones next unit, but like insulin, or it helps make hormones again that kind of regulate blood sugar levels, like insulin and glucagon. It's going to produce enzymes that help break down carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. And it produces sodium bicarbonate, which is a base that helps neutralize hydrochloric acid and chyme. So the pancreas is kind of tucked away behind your stomach here. So if you wanted to know where your pancreas is, but good to know what the pancreas does for the test. Other accessory organs for the digestive system, we have the liver and gallbladder. The liver is this major big organ right here that produces bile, and bile has a fluid that's loaded with lipids and salts. It helps also, the liver helps regulate the amount of sugar in the blood. But bile, we're going to see in the next slide what that does, but bile then is going to be stored in a little pouch-like organ called the gallbladder. So let's look at that right now. So the gallbladder kind of hooks up right to your small intestine. Again, it's kind of tucked away under the liver. So once the liver made its bile, it's going to be stored in, sorry for the bell, it's going to be stored in the gallbladder. So if there's fat detected in the small intestine, the gallbladder is going to kind of squirt some bile right in here, and the bile helps break up like the big globs of fat into smaller droplets. By having these smaller droplets, we have a higher surface area, so it's going to be easier to digest those that fat when they're in smaller drops compared to like big clumps. So that's what the liver and gallbladder are doing. The liver again is producing the bile, but the gallbladder is storing that bile so we can digest the fats starting in the small intestine. These are just an overview of all the different types of enzymes. Good ones to know again is like amylase, pepsin. Pepsin, think like pepsin starts with P, protein starts with P, so pepsin breaks down protein. So you see pepsin here in the stomach, and also kind of related to pepsin, peptidase, which breaks down actual like the amino acids. So pepsin breaks down larger proteins, peptidase breaks down amino acid chains. Lipase breaks down fats like lipids, so that kind of matches. Anything that ends in an ace here breaks down any sort of sugar. So like again, like amylase breaks down disaccharides or carbohydrates, and so forth. Or not just ACE. ACE just means it's an enzyme. So maltase, sucrase, lactase. Those are lactase breaks down the sugar lactose. Sucrase digests the enzyme sucrose, or the sugar sucrose. Alright, so we're going to start part 2 on the next one. Okay.